Our neighborhood is perfectly monitored, but the neighbors are in danger. The police used all means to find their heads in the refrigerator. In addition, no traces of corpse fragments and murder were found. In the early morning, I was holding my daughter to feed milk powder and I heard the noise outside. Suddenly, someone knocked on my door. I opened the door and saw 2 police standing at the door. The door of the neighbor's house next door, 1603, was open. A lot of police came in and out. There were a lot of people around the corner of the elevator. Everyone was in a panic. "What's the matter?" The middle-aged police pointed to the surveillance camera on my door and said, "There's a case you need to cooperate with. Is it normal for you to be a surveillance camera? Cooperate, definitely cooperate. This is the backup of my surveillance camera. Take a look." I hurriedly took out my phone and turned on the playback function. After the police took the phone away, the middle-aged police still stared at me. "Is it convenient for you to go in and sit down?" "Sure, come in." After the other party entered the house, he glanced around. In the end, his eyes stopped on my daughter. "The little baby is so beautiful. How old are you?" 11 months. "Are you going to catch porridge soon?" The middle-aged police teased my daughter for a while and suddenly asked, "Are you the only one at home? Where's your father?" He was angry with me and ran home. It's not good for a couple to have conflicts. "By the way, what do you do for a living?" "You don't go to work on working days." "I'm an online writer. I usually write scripts at home. I don't have to go to work." The police immediately showed a jealous expression. "Good job. When I was young, I wanted to write a novel, but I didn't have time to do this job. But I like reading novels." "What kind do you write? What's your pen name?" "I'll look ugly later. I write everything. Recently, I mainly write suspense. My pen name is 𝐍𝐞𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐛�𝐫." The police nodded. It's like he remembered something. "How are you and your neighbor?" "I won't hide the truth. It's not good. Otherwise, I wouldn't put a camera in front of the door. Those 2 people are notorious scumbags in our community. If you can't take advantage of them, you'll be at a disadvantage. It's bad luck to have such a neighbor." After the complaint, I asked, "The noise is so loud. Did something happen to them?" "The 2 people were killed. The police said they stared at me and hit me." "How long has the camera in front of your door been installed?" "Almost a year. My daughter was crying in the middle of the night. They smashed our door. They said they were noisy. They forced me to move away. In theory, they and I were slapped a few times. The police adjusted and installed it." "There's more. Did you have any conflicts after that?" "I was so angry. I called the police 5 or 6 times. But every time it was a mediation. After the mediation, they continued to make trouble. The police adjusted and installed it." "When was the last time you had a conflict? What's the reason?" "A series of inquiries made me impatient. I forgot." "Did you suspect me? You think I'm a suspect?" The police laughed. "Don't think too much. Just ask casually. Since you're a detective novelist, you should know that we're dealing with a homicide case. I'm sure you're looking for clues." "Then you got the wrong person. Although I'm neighbors with them, I haven't spoken to them for months. I usually go out when they're not at home. I don't know about their family. If you're okay, I'll coax my daughter to sleep." When I gave the order, the middle-aged police officer was not angry. He went out and took my cell phone. He made a backup and returned it to me. After I coaxed my daughter to sleep at noon, I quietly left the door. There were a lot of police outside. They were busy at 1603. I found the neighbor of 1602 and asked, "Brotherly, what's going on? Our community has a homicide case." Brotherly is the head of our community. He's a good guy. He watched the show all morning. The news is more than I know. Who knows who the old couple offended? Good boy. I heard the police say except for the people who found the old couple in the refrigerator, they didn't find anything. I don't know where the murderer hid the old couple's bodies. It shouldn't be. Our community is fully monitored. How could such a big body disappear? Brotherly immediately lowered his voice. He said in a mysterious voice, "What if the murderer is good?" I heard from the property management that the police have checked all the surveillance records of the community. I haven't seen anyone go to the old couple's house recently. Now the police suspect it's a familiar case in this floor. The old couple's bodies were flushed down from the toilet. They're about to draw the manure pool. Brotherly said what suddenly came to mind. Look at my memory. There must be a water outage later. I'll go home and get some water. I saw Brotherly leaving in a hurry. I turned around and walked into the house. I haven't entered the door yet. I was stopped by the middle-aged police in the morning. "Yamo, wait a minute." He shouted my name directly. You must have investigated my personal information. I was in a hurry in the morning. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Zhao Zhen from the Criminal Investigation Team. I'm in charge of this case. Hello, Officer Zhao. What's the matter? He pointed at my living room. Can we talk inside? No, my daughter is taking a nap. That's right. Then I won't bother her. Here's the thing. I have a few more questions for you. Zhao Zhen pointed the law enforcement recorder at me. Has your camera been installed and never moved? Didn't I give you the backup? You'll know if you've moved it. I've seen it, but only the records of the last 7 days. All 7 days ago were covered. There's no way. I installed the camera just to prevent them from stealing. I can't use much memory, so what do you want to ask? The sound of the painting just fell. Zhao Zhen suddenly asked a cold question. Do you know the password to the 1603 electronic lock? Officer Zhao, what are you thinking? Who would tell a stranger the password to the door? Speaking of this, I have a strong reaction. You suspect me? Zhao Zhen didn't answer. He just stared at me closely. It's like he wants to see something on my face. Please, let's have some logic, okay? I didn't have a good time with them, but I would never do anything to kill. Don't be nervous. I'm just asking. Are you asking? It's just a naked suspicion. That's a terrifying murder. Do I have the courage? I was suspected and I squinted. Zhao Zhen said with no expression. I don't know if others have the courage, but you must have. I just investigated. You are a medical student, and you have been a surgeon for several years. Suicide is a heartbreaking thing. Ordinary people may not have the courage to do it, but for a surgeon it shouldn't be a big deal. Officer Zhao has been a doctor. You must have the courage to kill a surgeon. All right, don't be angry. I don't think you did it. I asked you here to ask you for a favor. Favor? What favor? At 12 o'clock in the morning, someone posted a photo in the group chat. A strange man wearing a duck-tongue hat and a mask carried a suitcase into our building. Everyone in the group knows that the suitcase is either RMB or RMB. Now everyone in the building can't sleep. After a few minutes of silence in the group chat, the 1501 who just posted the photo sent out a few more messages. I just got off work and now I'm awake. He didn't get on the elevator and went to the stairs. My heart jumped to my throat. Our building is a high-rise building. Usually, even those who live on the second or third floor will take the elevator. It's obviously abnormal for him to take the stairs, especially with a suitcase, and he chose to take the stairs. It's very likely because the floor he's going to is not high. The other owners thought of this. Is there anyone who didn't sleep? He looked up to see which floor he was on. I live on the first floor. I found it wrong and called the police in time. Pay attention to safety. Don't let a murder happen in our building. According to him, it's been 5 minutes since he entered the building. According to the schedule, it should be on the 4th floor. Is there anyone who didn't sleep on the 4th floor? I whispered. Then a lot of owners jumped out at me right away. Let me go out and have a look. It's about the whole building. I can't refuse. However, as soon as I got close to the doorbell rang. There was a man standing outside the door. There was only one pair of eyes on the whole body. It was the man in the group photo. I was so scared that my hands and feet were weak. At this moment, the next door 402 suddenly knocked and opened the door. A woman's voice rang. Why are you so late? There was a train on the way. What's the matter? You can't wait for a while? The woman pulled the man's arm directly and brought him into the house. That's when I took a breath. 402 lives with a newlywed couple. It is said to be online. Her husband went on a business trip a few days ago. I guess he just got back. At this time, the news in the group has exploded. Everyone is hating me. I replied to everyone in a hurry. It's okay. It's a false alarm. That man is the male owner of 402. He should have just come back from a business trip. He probably wanted to give his wife a surprise. Everyone go to bed. The news has just been sent out. The 15014 letter that posted the photo before was sent over. Are you sure you saw it clearly? The male owner of 402 doesn't seem to be that tall. And I saw the suitcase he took on the day he went on a business trip. It's not this one. At the time of the fire, my heart was beating fast. If the man just now is not the male owner, who is he? After that day, I didn't go to the group to talk again. But my guess was confirmed. At that time, the male owner of 402 came back 3 days later. After coming back, he had a big fight with his wife. The whole building was so noisy that there was no peace. But the next day after the quarrel, they went out together again. It was like nothing had happened. This kind of thing with a green hat. The parties have all chosen to forgive. Others can't say anything more. But just a week later, something unexpected happened. The wife of 402 fell off the building and died. The siren of the ambulance rang all over the neighborhood. After the police investigated the scene, they took the deceased husband away. That night, our building was empty. It was just a murder case. The deceased was killed by him. His body was covered with blood. No one dared to continue living here. Before the wife of 403 left, she came to me. "Little girl, why haven't you packed up yet?" I was embarrassed. "I don't believe in these things." The wife of 403 was frowning so she could kill a fly. "These things are more credible than anything else. Let me tell you, the soul of this disabled man is very strong. Especially this headband. And that night, if it weren't for you, his husband wouldn't have found out that he had cheated and killed him. He knew he was coming to take revenge on you. I have to say, the wife of 403 will be very angry." I decided not to go out for a while these days. While there were still people, I quickly went to the supermarket downstairs to buy some fast food. After entering the house, I quickly locked the door. Maybe because I was too tired, I fell asleep in a daze. When I woke up again, it was already dark. My neck was very painful. It was like a pillow. I walked out of the bedroom with my neck bent. I heard the sound of the elevator outside. I was shocked. The people in this building were clearly gone. Why did the elevator stop on the 4th floor? What surprised me more was that I just wanted to move to the door to see what was going on. I heard the sound of the password being pressed outside the door, and it was still my password. Extreme fear made my scalp numb. But as soon as I knocked on the door password was correct. I hurriedly hid in the shoe cabinet next to me. The moment he came in, the door of the shoe cabinet was closed. Through the gap in the door, I saw a tall man coming in. He was wearing black t-shirts and shorts. He walked in the living room for a few seconds. My sweat kept coming out. I was about to stop breathing. What scared me more was that why did he know the password of my house? He dared to cover my whole body. When I was wondering if I should take the initiative to go out for fun, the man turned his face to me. But when I saw his cold eyes, a chill climbed up several times. I knew him. He was the man who entered room 402 that night. His eyes were cold, long, with a cold light underneath. It was scary. I probably already knew why he came to me. Revenge. After all, if it weren't for me that night, their love wouldn't have been discovered by the public. That woman wouldn't have died. He wanted to avenge his lover. My hand was soaked with sweat. I was about to break down and cry. At this moment, the doorbell of my house suddenly rang. The man was in a trance. My heart was shaking because this was my last chance to survive. "Who is it?" The man got up and walked to the door. It was the owner of room 402. The owner of room 402 was stunned when he saw the man. "Has the owner of this house changed?" The man shook his head calmly. "No. My girlfriend went on a trip with her high school classmate yesterday. She just came back and fell asleep." The owner of room 402 was shocked. "The water pipe of my house is broken. Can you lend me your house's water pipe?" The man smiled and went to the kitchen to find a helper. While the man was looking for something, I quietly opened the door and reached out my hand to ask the man for help. But he didn't seem to see it. Since the owner of room 402 could be released, it means that his suspicion was ruled out. Since he is not the murderer, the man is the biggest suspect. Just when I was thinking about how to deal with it, the man came out of the kitchen. He opened his mouth apologetically. "I'm sorry. He just fell in love. I'm not sure where he put his things." He checked the time. "Well, when he wakes up, I'll send it to you." As soon as the door was closed, I didn't have a last chance to ask for help. The man went back to his room to find something. When the man entered the bedroom, I walked out of the closet without hesitation. But when I got to the door, I couldn't open the door after I died. The door in front of me was like being burned to death. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't open it. Suddenly, there was a loud phone ringing outside the door. The man in the room was also shocked and ran out. At the same time, the door was hit hard from the outside. I was hit on the ground. Several armed policemen rushed in with guns. They acted quickly and didn't give the man time to react. First, I knocked him down with my hands. I just walked over to explain the situation. A young policeman walked out of the bedroom with a heavy face. "Captain, a woman was found in the bedroom." I was curious and followed them to the master bedroom to check. When I saw the body on the bed, I was scared to fight with my legs. It was me who was lying on the bed with a pale face. I was dead. The sound of a cold doctor's voice rang. According to the degree of decay of the body, the victim's death time was less than 12 hours. The first scene of the crime was in front of the living room. Judging from the wound, it should have been stabbed directly into the neck with a dagger from behind. I was trembling all over. I felt pain in my neck after I woke up. No wonder I could not see the male owner who was holding a 402 in his hand so hard. No wonder no one found me. It turned out that I was dead. In the middle of the night, a man was knocking on the door of my house. I just wanted to argue with him, but I found a knife with the word blood in his hand. After graduating from college, I moved to the 𝐍𝐞𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐛�𝐫 community. The hardware of this community is good, and it is very pleasant to live alone. The only thing that makes me headache is that there is a bear child and his unreliable parents living upstairs. At night, the bear child always likes to jump around. The thumping sound makes me very annoyed. On weekends at home, the thumping sound upstairs is louder. I can't even sleep because of the sound of running. I knocked on the door several times upstairs to argue with the child's parents. The first few times were his mother's appearance, a state of oriny. And this time after I argued, I just wanted to turn around and go home, but I accidentally kicked behind his door. A pair of eyes stared at me. I was stared at a little bit. This is the father of the bear child, right? I don't know why, but I feel a little anxious. When I go home, I always feel a little restless. The bear child also likes to press the elevator. The neighbors in the group complained many times, but his parents never apologized in the group. At that time, I looked at my phone, sighed in secret, and thought of the father's eyes. If his family wasn't too noisy, I really didn't want to have too much contact with them. Until a few days ago, my mother came to play with me. Originally, we were chatting in the living room and watching TV. Suddenly, there was a loud noise upstairs. It was the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. Then there was a noise of arguing. One voice was louder than the other. In the middle, there was the crying of the bear child. I looked at the quarrel and didn't stop for a while. My good mood was destroyed all of a sudden. Maybe my mother was here. I started to complain to her about the noise upstairs. The noise upstairs was getting louder and louder. There was no meaning to stop. Today I must have a good talk with them. I made a move to cut the sleeve of the bowl. They are all neighbors. They look down and look up. Too bad. My mother pulled me all of a sudden. She whispered to me. I sighed. I put on my headphones and watched the video. But not long after, I heard a woman's scream and a huge thud. I was so scared that I quickly took off my headphones. My mother's face was pale. She pointed her finger up. I just wanted to ask her, but she made a fake gesture. Then she got up quickly and turned off the light. The room was in the dark for a moment. Mom, what are you doing? Don't make a sound. My mother pulled my arm. In the middle of the night, her palms were sweaty. We were silent in the dark. I was confused. I didn't know why my mother did this. A few seconds later, there was a knock on the door upstairs. Then there was a knock on the door. I moved to the door by myself. I looked at the outside with my cat's eyes. No one opened the door upstairs. The knock stopped abruptly. Then the sound of footsteps was far away. The rapid knock on the door made my heart beat like a drum. I covered my chest in panic. It was the man upstairs who knocked on the door. I only saw one hand behind me. The other hand was knocking on the door hard. He had no expression on his face. I don't know what he was thinking. At the next moment, he looked coldly and rubbed his eyes against the cat's eyes. His actions made me sweat. I quickly shrugged. I didn't know if he saw me or not. My mother walked over and hugged my shoulder tightly. I could see that she was nervous too. We looked at each other. We didn't speak. Not long after, the man stopped knocking on the door. The sound of footsteps was heard again. He walked to the house across the street. At that moment, I saw that he had a clean kitchen knife. The bloody blood fell to the ground along with the blade. My scalp was numb. It covered my mouth. The man began to knock on the door. I prayed in my heart that the neighbor across the street would never open the door. I didn't know if there was really no one across the street or if I felt something wrong. He knocked for a while and didn't move. The man stood still for a while, turned around and looked at the door of my house, then walked up the stairs until he heard the sound of the door closing upstairs. I sighed. There was blood on his knife. I trembled and told my mother to call the police. My mother's warning made me realize that it was not the time to be in a daze. I took out my phone in a hurry and made a phone call. I told the police where I was and what was going on. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't calm down. I looked at my mother. Not long after, there was a sound coming from upstairs. Seemed to be the police. First, it was the sound of knocking on the door. A few minutes later, it was the sound of breaking the door. Then I heard the sound of a noisy footstep upstairs. Then I heard the cry of a desperate boy, "Give my parents back to me." Not long after, the police knocked on the door of my house and came to me for a statement. From the police's mouth, I learned that the woman upstairs and her husband had a fight. Her husband had killed her cruelly. When the incident happened, the man locked the boy in the bedroom. The purpose of the man knocking on the door seems to be to find a scapegoat. The kitchen knife in his hand is the evidence. After learning about this situation, I was not only a little scared, but if my mother was not there at that time and I opened the door directly, the consequences would be unimaginable.